Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hey, everybody, it's Michael Menino, and welcome to Driven, Unscripted Success podcast. Today on the podcast, we're interviewing professionals who share their experience with you, the audience, and how they got to where they're at today. And zooming from the beautiful island of Fort Myers is Dr. Tiffany Bannworth. How you doing?
Hello. Very good.
Tiffany, do me a favor. Dr. Tiffany, Dr. Bannworth, what do you like to call it?
Whatever, it's fine. Dr. Tiffany is the easiest, probably.
All right, cool. We were talking earlier, and she's an archaeologist, and she's running around the world doing archaeology, and then she stopped because someone offered her a school. And now she's owning or running the school.
Now I own
the school. Awesome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you're at today.
Well, I used to do archaeology first and education second. And now I'm doing archaeology second. Actually, not only that, I sneak onto paleontology digs too when I get a chance.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm going out to dig dinosaurs in June. So can't wait for summer to come.
Do you know what you're looking for? Is there anything that you're expected to find, or?
That I'm not familiar at all. It's in Utah. I'm not familiar with the site whatsoever. I usually dig in upstate of Florida. We do Gomphotherium and really Gomphotherium, but they also have what's the name of it? It's a small, like horse-sized or dog-sized horse that they're looking for, and the name's eluding me right now. But that's on the secondary site. But mainly we're looking for Gomphotherium, which is kind of a weird elephant that, instead of it being an elephant who has a mouth and the snout opens up. So it's extinct. It doesn't exist anymore. And for whatever reason, at this sinkhole in northern Florida, there's loads of it. And so I've been digging for years. But
how many have you got? How many artifacts have you got?
Well, it goes to the museum. So
I mean, how many did you find, or you guys unearthed while you were there?
They log them for me. So there's like a thing, but they're only up until 2020 right now. And I've been digging there since 2017. So in my log on the museum, I have like 60 some bones that are completely full, but I've been digging for 5 more years after that. So I'm sure I'm like in the hundreds, but I'm just like waiting for the lab to catch up with the dig.
Yeah, I know when people like in business, when they don't get up to your speed, that's no fun.
Yeah, so I'm like, I like check all the time, and my sons come too. Like 3 of my sons, I've brought as like dig assistants. But if they find a bone, it goes in their name under their own right. So I'm like, only my oldest has gotten his log yet. We're still waiting because my second oldest went in 2021. So we're still waiting, but
still waiting for the log to get in. I get exactly what you're talking about. So how did you get into the school? So we were talking about you were a martial arts instructor back in the day. And someone offered you a school.
Well, I was a martial arts instructor back in the day, and I was doing archaeology. Actually, it was because my son had passed away. So this started in tragedy. So my son had passed away, and they were doing an investigation. We later found out it was a vaccine injury because he was a 3.5-month-old baby who died in his sleep. And essentially it was, they didn't want me to travel or anything until after it was over. And maybe I shouldn't be homeschooling the kids unless, everything is signed off on. So they wanted me to put my children in a school. So I opted for a Christian school. And within, I would say, a couple of months of just attending the Christian school, they asked me to run the Christian school. So I was teaching there. They like gave me the school, right? But then I thought to myself, I need to return to my life on the road of digging and traveling and teaching at museums. And then I ended up staying there for like 8 years. Like I never left. I kept thinking about after this year, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna go back on the road. And I never did. I ended up staying, and I was staying. And then finally, it had gotten to the point where I was in charge of multiple schools. I was running everything. And the owner and I just were philosophically on different paths in regards to special needs children. And I went my way, and he decided to give me an option of whether I wanted to stay and forego my personal feelings. And I couldn't do that because I felt like God had placed me in this position. And unbeknownst to even myself, that I should be a catch-all for children who fall through the cracks. Because even though I had taught martial arts, I was even all throughout schools, and I was always the manager of everywhere that I worked. I had essentially thought my life would never be involving young children as a profession, because my oldest son was the first child I ever held. And it was
Really?
actually fun. Yeah. And like I told somebody that when I was about 6 months pregnant, that, I haven't held a baby before. So my oldest son, his name's Dante. He's gonna be the first child I ever hold. And at
That's
8 months,
awesome.
somebody was trying to sling their child at me. I was like, you better hold on to that child because I do not want to mess this up. So my own baby was the first child I ever held. And then
That's
after
cool.
I had him, I was like, oh, I want a million of them. So I have 8 kids. And
Wow.
yeah, we were gonna have 10. My husband passed away too. My husband was in a motorcycle
Oh my
crash.
God.
And that's what I think geared me to the next jump. So I ran somebody else's school for a while, and I thought about how, because ultimately the owner made all the decisions. And I thought, there's so many times where he went right where I would have gone left or the inverse. And I daydreamed about how I could do it differently. And then finally the opportunity arose, and I had left the other school, and somebody had contacted me and said, would you ever consider opening up a school and a church because they're having financial problems? And maybe if you opened up your school there, or maybe another campus, because I thought I was still at the other school, that you could financially save them. And I said, yeah, absolutely. You're not gonna believe it, but I left. I'm a free agent. I can do it. So I had keys to, because I quit the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and I had keys the first week of December to my new school. So it was like unbelievable. Like I truly, truly believe that God laid the path that I'm on,
I
and that it was nothing of my own device. So God is all glory, because I repeatedly things have happened for me. Like for instance, one of the board members of my old school quit when she found out that I had left and financed the whole opening of my new school. It
really.
just like it paved its own way. It was incredible. And there have been times, we have a joke around here that I'm on the Jesus bank account, because there have been so many times where I've just walked in faith that finances have been met. One time there was a girl I went to school with. She was much older than me because I went to the same school, kindergarten through 12th grade. So she would have been in high school when I was in junior high. And one year I needed money to pay the insurance renewal, whatever. Christmas Day, she said, check your PayPal account. God told me to send you $5,000. And
Yeah.
lo and behold, it was just there. It was exactly what I needed.
What you needed.
Crazy things
Yeah.
like that happen all the time to me. But I truly believe that, like I said, if I had chosen my own path, it would not necessarily, I thought, have been this. Then all of a sudden, God opened doors, and God gave me these really life-changing and life-altering experiences that I now have a heart specifically for not only children who fall through the cracks, because that's what at my last school I felt like was my focal point, but also children who even who live in a life of ordinary but dream of a life of extraordinary, and helping them
Right.
make the jump to their dreams coming true type of thing. So it's a very weird place around here. Like we do things very differently. I like to tell people sometimes they have to, if they're used to the public school method, sometimes they have to unschool for a little bit to get used to the way things are around here. But then it's like a rocket ship going up. We see the success happen very quickly and very dramatically.
I know exactly what you're talking about when you said that God opens doors. I tell people God shuts doors in my life and they're locked, that I can't get them back open. And then he opens doors. And like you said, he opens them. He shuts one and opens the next one right in front of the shut door. He's trying to tell you to go somewhere. And I've been stupid enough to try and go back to that old door, and it's just like beating your head against the wall. It never works out. So congratulations. That's awesome. How many students do you have?
Well, we have a mix right now, or like we have in this room, because I had a different campus that was much bigger. That campus got messed up by the hurricane. And
Oh, I'm
here we
sorry.
have in person, we have about 25 people. We have about 25 people internationally, about 86 in homeschool. I also have an
Nice.
adult education thing that number varies because people can just sign on for a class and they're asynchronous. So I have upward, I don't know, sometimes I have 200 students, sometimes I have less. And then just this summer, we have a driving school online too, where you can
Nice.
take the
You
class.
got
I've had one
everything.
student beta tested here. Well, and then we're also opening up early admission and dual enrollments with 3 colleges around the country. So we have a lot of cool stuff that is coming up in the summer that I'm unveiling. So I
Cool.
have no idea how many kids they're everywhere. I got students everywhere. So
That's awesome. So if somebody listening wants to get better at what you're doing, what advice would you give them? What suggestions and tips would you give them?
I would definitely say that there are some times and and I've even seen this with teachers who have attempted to work for me, where some people have something in their mind and that's what they're going to do and that's all they're going to do and it doesn't work. And they just try and do it and do it and do it and it just doesn't work. So for instance, if you have a child that doesn't learn the way you teach, then you can't just teach the way you've always taught if it doesn't work. It may work for, 85% of the kids, but if it doesn't work for this kid, the whole reason why they've brought their child to a professional teacher is that you're supposed to have multiple tools in your teaching toolkit and you should be adaptable for the situation. So the idea is don't become, locked in to exactly what you think is the only way to do it, because what are you going to do when it doesn't work? Alienate the child or admit that maybe there's a different way to do it? So you need to be flexible in your learning. You need to be a constant student. I mean, and I
Yes.
think that goes in any field. I mean, you constantly need to be learning and improving forever, not just sit back on your laurels and say, adapt to what I'm doing or leave. You need to constantly be learning new ways to be successful and to meet people where they are and then bring them up.
I agree with you 1,000%. Two things that come to mind is we do multifamily. We show people how to buy and own multifamily real estate apartment complexes. And I'm in constant I go to tons of seminars and it's constant education. Like you said, I love what you said. You said a professional student. And then the other thing with the students is I tried to, I have a bunch of black belts and I try and tell them there's 5 different ways of learning. What are the 5 different ways of learning? There's kinesthetic reading, verbal, and there's a couple other ones. How you can learn something, written book, and
Yeah.
then and what's really crazy is I know all my martial arts instructors' teaching style, and all the students don't have their learning style, doesn't have that learning style. And I'm like, you guys got to teach their learning style. And they start to get it and they're like, yeah, I know, but I know I like doing what I do. I'm like, oh, guess what you're learning today? Even at a black belt, you're learning something, right?
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah.
actually easier for me to train an untrained teacher, like straight out of college,
Yeah.
than it is for me
Yeah.
to train someone who's been in public school for a bunch of years.
Well, yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Public school has great systems and process, but I didn't enjoy it. And I know it can be so much better. I heard someone called me one time and said, "Hey, would you like to be a teacher in a school?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I was actually going to the U.S. Open one time, and they said it was a charter school in Detroit. And I go, "Well, you mean after school?" He goes, "No, as a class, you got to set up curriculum and teach everything that martial arts teaches." And I thought about it in the inner cities of Detroit. Do you think discipline and self-confidence would be 2 things those kids could enjoy?
Absolutely.
I thought it was the greatest thing in the world, but I just couldn't do it. I just didn't have the
Wow.
time. But it was great. They were having a martial arts class, like a class in school. I thought
Yeah.
it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, so everybody's had challenges. You sound like you've been through a lot, like a lot. What is one of the biggest challenges you had to overcome in your career?
Well, I would say this. I have not, um, personally, I've told you my son and my husband have passed away,
That's
but
hard.
it is. And in both instances where things were dynamically changing in my life. Like when my husband passed away, I found out 2 days later I was pregnant. So yeah, I know, right? So we say,
You have
so
one of
check
the
this out.
craziest lives I've ever heard.
I have 7 boys, and my husband passed away in a motorcycle crash. And 2 days later, I found I was pregnant, and I slowly found out later it was a girl. So we say it was his last gift on his way out.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so God works really incredibly in my life. Like I am 100% dependent on Jesus Christ. And in these
Agreed.
instances,
Amen.
he's multiply come through. I mean, all the time. And things that have happened that could be bad, God has turned for good for me. And I mean, I walk that verse. I would say professionally, there were definitely people that were unhappy with the success that I've had. There were definitely people that, whether it was jealous or because we actually won 2 years in a row, best school in Florida. So I got to win this year too. So
Congratulations.
vote for me. But
Yeah.
I got to pull
Do
off
you
a
have to
hat
be a
trick
parent? Do you
here.
have to be a parent in the school district? Because I'll do
No,
it.
anybody can vote. That's
Oh,
how I
okay, there you
made
go.
national students vote. The
Hey,
parents
all my
I've helped.
listeners, please vote for Tiffany Bannworth for the best school or
Best
best
school in
teacher?
Florida. Yeah. No, best school.
Best school in Florida. Please do it. What's the name of the school?
It's Bannworth Academy of Classical Education.
Bannworth High School. Okay, good. All right, that's
And
a
so
mouthful. I'm not going to be able to repeat that.
I got to pull
The
off a hat
Bannworth.
trick and win 3 years in a row.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
Congratulations.
This summer's the voting. So they wait till you've taught the whole year, and then the parents can reflect. Did I really like what was going on? And then they vote. So
There
then
you go. Awesome.
they tell you for the next year, like if it was good, then the new parents can know. But I have definitely had my fair share of like just weird things that have happened. People have called one time. This is a great great story. My son, my oldest son, I thought it'd be a really cool idea. You know when like little kids get their frisbees and whatever stuck on the roof.
Mhm.
So I had my oldest son dress up as a superhero while the kids were on the playground and go up on the roof. He's 22 now, and throw down the frisbees to the kids. You know, I thought it was like
Nice.
awesome. The
That's
kids
good.
loved it, right? It was wow. The school next to us, because we were right next door to another school, called the FBI and said that there was a masked man on the roof of my school, and so it was surrounded by police. And then, obviously I told them what happened. They all like left, but it was crazy. So I've had my fair share of like weird stuff go on, but the hardest time was in one of my buildings. We had what I would say was an unfair legal red tape. The building that I ended up taking in had done a illegal. They built an illegal garage or something like that 10 years
A
before I
legal
ever.
edition. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was 10 years before I took rental. And for whatever reason, the fire inspector wanted me to have
A
it
permit
knocked
on it.
down and rebuilt. Yeah, it was ridiculous. It went on for a couple, like I went to like a mediation with the county about it. And it was like, again, like God had set up my life. One of the students that joined my school, the grandmother worked in the office over there. And so we got it all squared away. That's what I'm saying is God's got my back. Like
He does.
adversity
Agreed.
comes and then God's like, so
Right.
weird stuff like that's happened in my life. But I almost think it's comedic. It's like trying to knock you off. And it doesn't always have to be spiritual. It can just be people with a whatever. But when God has set you on a certain path, it doesn't matter who rises up against you. You will be victorious as long as you are walking with the Lord. And I've found that to be true.
Agreed. I
And
agree
people
100%.
have come for me. And
Well,
I stand.
I told you that I got to professional level in brick breaking, and how I got there was I was at a regional tournament, and I put up 8 bricks, and I heard a little voice in the back of my head saying, "Put the ninth one on." And I'm like, "Really? Eight's not enough for you? 8 2-inch bricks is not enough." And all I hear him say is, "Put the ninth one on." I'm like, ah. So I put the ninth one on, and it got me into the U.S. Open and competing professionally for years. But I've argued with God many times. I've never won. And every time I argue with him, it makes me look like an idiot afterwards. He's trying to show me something, and I never, it's the human in me that's the worst part. So I know exactly how you feel, but I also say this too. When you see all those, I call them little miracles happen, isn't it odd that when you get used to miracles,
Oh, that's true. It is
right?
true.
You're like, yeah, it got solved. And you're like, oh, thanks. You're like, you're kind of used to it at the point. And people
Yeah.
come up to me, and, we built a house in 6 days, freaking out.
Oh,
And,
wow.
yeah. And, I'm calm. I'm like, why are you calm? I said, well, the architect of the universe is in this. Watch him work.
Hmm.
And I swear to God, Day two, the building inspector said he's going to shut us down.
Oh no.
Day two, day two. And then we took care of it. And then we took care of it and we got it done in 6 days. And it was just,
Incredible.
when you walk with him, like you said, you can't fail. It's almost you can't fail.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Sounds like things are going really well for you in your business. That's awesome, man. I love to
Incredible.
hear. I love to hear good God stories.
On
Looking
my
forward
own,
to
I was just on my own. I didn't know, they say make it to 5 years and you've made it. And we are open more than 5 years. So we've made it.
nice, right? Now you're gonna get big increases. That's when after the 5 year mark, all the big increases happen. It's staying alive to the fifth year is where the big thing. Looking forward to the future and wondering, we try and ask people what they do and how they got to where they're at. What do you do for creating passive income, or have you ever done passive income in the past?
Well, the asynchronous classes that I have are kind of a passive income. So,
Okay.
you imagine like the first time that you record them, it is active income, but then it becomes passive as they do recordings. But what I did to supplement my income or to make ends meet was I tutored almost 24 hours a day, I felt like, because I would teach the school. I started the school doing every position. And
Yeah.
so I would teach all day, and then if the money didn't make ends meet, I started tutoring. I would put different slots for tutoring just back to back to back, and I would tutor sometimes all the way till 10 o'clock at night, and it would be 4 to 5, 5 to 6, and that really helped pay the bills. And then it's gotten to the
Nice.
point now where I don't pay myself to teach at the school, so I teach for free all day. All the tuition goes towards overhead or investing in future renovations, future plans, field trips, stuff like that. And I now solely live off of tutoring money. So
Nice.
so it's gotten to where I do that, which is like really incredible now because now um I can tutor anyone in the world. I have students who live in Guatemala, students who live in Turkey, because, believe it or not, an American diploma is very sought after in many places. I have
Oh, American everything. American everything.
Yeah, and
Cars,
so it
everything.
works out. And like they're
Yeah.
on different time schedules too. So I can even teach if I needed to, either very late at night or very early in the morning, and there's somewhere in the world that it needs the same thing. But I think the asynchronous classes, which I'd like to do more of, I was thinking about doing a lot of recording of them this summer, but that's really helped a lot. And then I also have a university online where I have professors from all over the world who teach classes for me as well. And it's pretty lucrative across the board. The professors get to keep 80%, and I only keep 20%, and it's just money that stacks on top of money. All I have to
Nice.
do is articulate the report cards off of the grades that they give me, and
Nice.
it's incredible because there's some super talented professors that are experts in their fields locally. They're locally, and I am so blessed that they would even. Sometimes I don't even understand how it happens because it's people from all over the world contact me. Like we just had our students recently that competed for the first time ever in an international chemistry quiz um, out of New Zealand and Australia, and we placed first in Florida, so we were excited about that. But I don't even know how they knew we existed. Like it's like I don't even advertise. That's what's weird.
I,
It's all word of mouth. It's all somehow we've
I think
multiplied.
we both know how people find
Oh,
out about you. It's no mystery to me. Especially when you're good, people
yeah.
will seek you out. But also, if you got the architect of the universe on your side, it's kind of hard to fail.
It was a little bit of a help.
A little bit of a little bit of that's the funniest thing you said today. Look, you kind of answered a question, but let's ask the entire question.
Okay.
Looking forward to the future. What is your plans? What is your next thing for the next 6 to 12 months?
Okay. Well, I do want to move into having a college at one point.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'd like to, and I did have, I have been one of the main people on a college board before, so I have a lot of insight on how it works and how to start it. But I think that would be the next step for me, is to,
Gotcha.
because I have a lot of students that I have taken care of since, because I had a preschool that was attached to my grade school that I've taken care of since they were born. And now a lot of them are graduating and they're
Yeah.
like, what's the next step? So I have people who want to come back and teach. I have people who want a college, and by popular demand, I'm thinking maybe there is something to it. I would love to do that. And I was looking into licensing and accreditations and stuff like that, but that might be where I am moving forward in the next, in that time period, laying down the foundation.
Nice. Very nice. I got the one of this is thank you very much for your time. We got one of the last questions and it's one of the big ones. So
Oh boy.
if you could go back to your 20s and know everything you know today,
Hmm.
what would you do differently and what would you do the same?
Well, I would definitely, this would sound crazy to say, I would have had more kids earlier. And
Nice.
I have 8 kids. My husband and I wanted to have 10 kids, and they all have their own birth month. They were all scheduled aside from my daughter who came in an open month. But I would have, if I knew that my time with my husband was short, I would have had more children. And I, I don't know. I feel like God really did it when he did it to show up, because I opened up this school, the one that of my own, right before COVID hit. So you would imagine, yeah, so
Ooh,
it was February of 2020 is when I
ooh,
uh opened the doors, even though I had the keys in December.
ooh.
Yeah, and I
Well,
just,
you lived in Florida though, so you weren't shut down that long. Like
no, and
Michigan was shut down
we
for a
weren't
year and a
shut
half.
down. Florida had paperwork that said if you were a private religious school that you didn't have to follow the mask ordinance, you could be mask optional. We weren't shut down at all.
Good
So
for
I
you.
was mask optional the entire time because I'm also an ordained minister. So I was religious and private, and so I had gotten both passes on it. So
Did you have one quick question? I'm gonna interrupt you on this, and I hate to do this. Did you have any problems with your optional mask? Because
none.
back then in Michigan, it was just you got to do this. You're killing people and blah 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 blah. And I was just for some reason I could feel something was wrong. Then did you have any problems? Any problems at all?
None whatsoever. Nothing. Not even any, nothing. And what's weird is that I was attached to a church that the church was doing like car where everybody sat in their car and the guy spoke with it. But I
Yeah.
had people, we were in person. And not only that, we also talk about passive income. I also, at the same time period, you remember when they were doing where the kids couldn't go into school, public school, and they had to learn from home? So I had
Mhm.
opened up my lobby um, with a bunch of computer stations, and if your parents had to go to work, you could send your kids to me and they would log onto their computer in their own computer station and do their public school work in the lobby with a supervisor while I was teaching school in the other section. So
I
that's
bet you
another,
that
that's,
helped out your school. I bet you that helped out a lot.
yeah, and it helped out a lot of the like parents because they what do you do? Like a lot of people couldn't even go to work if their kids had to stay home, or you had to just leave your kids home by themselves. So having a safe place where they could bring their children to do their schoolwork, when their own schools weren't allowing them to come in, that was I'm telling you, like I had no pushback whatsoever with it. There was one girl who wore a mask in the whole school, and that's because she had underlying medical issues that she wore a mask even before there was a mask mandate. But
Okay.
aside from that, like 99.9% of the students, there was no mask, and the parents were looking for that. They were looking for their kids not to have to be shoved into a mask all day. So this was like a godsend to
It,
them.
I'm not a doctor, but I know one thing. I tested for my fifth on with a mask,
Oh
and that was
wow.
not a good thing. No, that you
Yeah,
understand how hard a test was, and
yeah, I
it was
imagine
not a good
trying to
thing.
fight for air. Yeah.
Yeah, it was not. I would not. Yeah. I don't know if the mask was more dangerous than the actual. Well, the test wasn't fun. Those tests, you know better than anybody. Those tests aren't fun.
Yeah.
Um, well, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
It
And
was wonderful.
yeah, you did a great job. I appreciate it. You shared a lot of valuable information. And one of the best is walking with God. When you walk with God, it's really hard to fail.
Mhm.
Um, if anybody wants to contact you, how would they do that? How would they get in touch with you or
Three
your school?
ways. There's my website, which is www.bamworthacademy.com. There's my email, which is drbamworth@bamworthacademy.com. Or they can give me a call at 321 or 754-4446. So email, website, phone calls, I'm here. Sometimes I have teachers who contact me for help with I write curriculum too for other schools. And sometimes teachers and schools call me to do stuff.
I got a question for you. So what are the, I want to say this nicely. I love teachers, but I talked to one of the girls that runs the financing at my school in Michigan, got teacher of the year for Michigan. And
Nice.
she's good. She's amazing. She's amazing. She said her hands are tied to teach.
Mine
What
are.
would you do differently if you were in charge of Florida school districts? What are the things that you do differently that you know would help out the Florida school district easily? Simple and easy things.
Well, here's the simple thing. Don't accept government money. So I'm approved to accept certain scholarships, but once you accept government money as scholarships, then they have a right into what you're doing. So clear, like here in Florida, as long as I'm teaching on or above the Florida Sunshine Standards, then I can teach whatever I like. So I have religious freedom, and as a private school that's not accepting government money, I can, as long as my students are learning on par or above, and my students test on average about a year and a half to 2.5 years above their own grade level.
Your students go a year and a half to 2 year test on average. So that's average. My point. Majority of private schools do at least one grade better. Majority of them. And why are we still stuck on the stupidity of what we're doing in our schools?
I don't know, but a lot of private schools now are starting to take the scholarships that you have to turn in your curriculums and stuff like that have to be on an approved list. And then it's basically just becoming a public school with Jesus in it, as opposed to, teaching in a wildly and innovatively different way that works. And I'll go on record saying this: if people haven't read about Rockefeller's the Rockefeller's Guide to the Public School System, which is essentially he invested a bunch of money to make sure that no one was overcomers or geniuses or artists, and they were just the people who could hit the alarms and push the buttons, then that's what you get. And in a public school setting, not the people who are working there are angels, but the setting,
yes,
the design
I agree.
of it,
well, it's
supposed to be like a prison. Well, it's supposed to the school.
Thing.
Think about a prison and a public school. It's an institutionalized setting with gray walls and it looks very similar until you put some posters on it and liven it up. So the concept, they're fighting against a tidal wave of the Rockefeller mentality. And what is there to do? Especially their hands are tied. That's why
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. If you don't accept government money, then and you get your own private school accreditation that's regionally accredited, your hands are untied. You can, as long as the students are testing and teaching above, on par or above, on average. Obviously, if some kids are below, some kids are way above, but on average, your hands are free to teach however you see fit. And
well, you're doing better than expected in the public schools. If I'm not mistaken, I heard some crazy stat that we're, for math and reading, we're 30th out of 34 countries that are dropping like a log.
Yeah, and the places that, and I'm also certified, and I like to take tests. I'm like certified in everything. I'm certified in forest schooling, and the schools that we are seeing rising to the top are forest school countries, like the Scandinavian countries and stuff like that. Like they are just floating up to the top in math, the top in English. There's something to see there. Like they're teaching in a way that's not American perennialism, so to speak. And not that I don't believe learning the classics, classic composers, different languages, classic authors, you should know all that as a base foundation. But the way it's being gone about is a way that is dropping us like lead.
Right.
We really need to rethink this.
Do you think that I could talk to you forever? This has to be the last question. So here's the last question for you. I think President Trump took out the federal education system.
Well, federally, so state is really
he's bringing it to the states.
Yeah, it already kind of was though in Florida.
Okay.
Basically we have to meet the state.
State
With me, I
guidelines.
have to meet the state standards and state guidelines in order to keep going with what I'm doing. There's like minimal standards. If you don't accept government money and your scores are good, all I have to do is teach 180 days, essentially. I have to have 180 days worth of schooling and good testing and regular meetings with my students. And that's basically all that's required, unless you take the government money and then you have more stipulations and standards.
If you're doing better than them, I don't think they have to worry about it, do they?
It's not, but I'm not very popular with American schools as much as internationally. A lot of international schools and international teachers actually come in and watch me teach. So they'll come and because I had this one teacher out of Germany, and she said that they write like masters for their bachelors. And so she did her paper on me and how I teach. And
Awesome.
she's bringing it back to Germany. She's teaching in Germany, like, as a replica of what I'm doing here. So
What you
it's
should
very
do
different.
is you might want to travel for your architect, for your architect.
Show up in Germany.
Yeah, show up in Germany and over there. That'd be awesome. And
Yeah,
then
it
you
would
get
be.
paid for it.
Absolutely.
Hey, listen, I can't thank you enough. You've been great. You've been a great guest. And if you guys ever want to talk about someone in schools, Dr. Tiffany is absolutely amazing at it. Okay, listen, I'm going to let you guys go. And thanks a lot for listening. If you have any questions, hit us up on social media. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.